Welcome to The Explainer. Today, I want you to think about a very specific type of person. I want you to picture the people who, when they get deeply, genuinely hurt, they don't slam doors, they don't scream, they don't throw things. Instead, they just quietly disappear. Honestly, you might not even notice it's happening until you suddenly realize, wait, I haven't really connected with them in a while. And by then, well, they've already made a pretty profound decision.
So, does that sound familiar? Do you disappear when you're hurt? There is a really good chance you might be one of these people, or you probably deeply love someone who is. And let's be real, it can be incredibly confusing and painful for everyone involved. But stick with me here, because I promise you, by the end of this explainer, you are finally going to understand exactly why this happens and the hidden mechanics behind this whole quiet retreat. Okay, let's dive into this. When most of us think about emotional reactions, society kind of tells us to expect one of two extremes, right? You either cry or you confront. You explode or you totally crumble. But as you'll see, there is actually a third option. It's a lot quieter, and frankly, it is deeply complex. For these folks, going quiet and disappearing, it's not about apathy, not at all. It happens because somewhere along the line, silence literally became the absolute safest language they ever learned. That brings us to Section 1, the roots of silence. This is all about what happens when vulnerability actually becomes a danger. To really wrap our heads around this, we've got to rewind to childhood. The renowned psychologist John Gottman spent decades, literally decades, studying how parents respond to their kids' emotions, and he identified this thing called emotion-dismissing parenting. Basically, if a kid grows up in a house where expressing hurt leads to being punished, or maybe even worse, leads to absolutely nothing at all, their nervous system does something wild to survive. It actually learns to associate vulnerability with danger. These repeatedly dismissed kids don't just learn to zip their lips, they actually learn to fundamentally distrust their own feelings. They start viewing their own emotions as just being too much, or just not worth voicing at all. And this right here is a massive distinction. This quiet retreat, it is completely different from a chosen strategy, like, just deciding to take a breather and not argue in the heat of the moment. No, this is a baked-in belief. It's this deep-seated conviction that hoping someone will actually hear them is simply way too dangerous. For them, speaking up means hoping, and hoping means risking that unbearable, crushing possibility of being dismissed all over again. Their entire nervous system is basically hot-wired to avoid that exact pain. I absolutely love this quote, and I want you to really let it sink in. The silence isn't the wound itself, but more like the scar tissue over the wound. That is so powerful, right? It tells us that their silence isn't passive, and it for sure isn't coldness. It's an active, working mechanism. Behind that calm face, maybe even behind a smile, that silence is doing some serious heavy lifting. It is actively containing grief, managing expectations, and holding on to their dignity. Let's move to Section 2, the story of Julia. We're going to look at how really small hurts compound into major distance. So let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. Meet Julia. It starts with an event. Her partner makes a super small offhand comment in front of some friends. Honestly, he probably didn't even realize he said it. Immediately, Julia just laughs it off, excuses herself, goes to the bathroom, takes a quick breath in the mirror, and goes right back out. Short term, they have a totally pleasant drive home. He asks if she's okay, she says she's fine, and she kind of means it because she's already folded that hurt away into a tiny mental drawer. But look at the long term. 3 weeks later, this huge, unspoken emotional distance has grown between them. The wound wasn't some dramatic screening match. It was just a tiny, unnamed hurt that never got spoken out loud. And eventually, all that unsaid stuff takes up way more space than the words they actually say. Which naturally leads us to Section 3, the hidden physical cost, what the body holds onto when the face shows absolutely nothing. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is this research by psychologist James Gross out at UC Berkeley. He looked at emotional suppression and found this fascinating, almost completely backward contrast. He found that when people suppress their emotions, their outward expression obviously drops. They look totally chill. But inside, their inward physiological arousal actually spikes. The body's sympathetic nervous system kicks into overdrive. We are talking actual cardiovascular spikes. The hurt doesn't just poof, vanish just because their face went blank. It just hides out inside the body where literally nobody else can see it. So, what does this all mean for the relationship? Well, the ultimate consequence is this. You cannot be truly close to someone who doesn't believe it's safe. Period.
You can sit right next to them on the couch, sure, but true intimacy, that requires a level of openness that these folks have had to strategically lock down just to survive their past environments.
All right, Section 4, the silent relationship test. They are basically running a quiet background check on you. It's honestly like a secret test, and here is exactly how it plays out. Step 1, they go quiet, and they just sit back and watch to see if you even notice the shift. Step 2, they wait to see if you reach out unprompted without them having to say a single word. And step 3, based entirely on your reaction, they quietly revise their whole understanding of the relationship. They're just waiting to see if they are truly seen by you without having to put on a performance of their pain just to get you to care. And the stakes here, they are absolutely massive. Passing this test, just by reaching out gently and totally unprompted, can be more healing than practically anything they could have verbalized. It proves to their nervous system that, hey, safety actually exists here. But failing, by just completely missing their retreat, it causes them to quietly, silently downgrade the safety of the entire relationship. And this is the scary part. Grand, sweeping romantic gestures do not fix this. It's the tiny, simple act of just noticing that makes all the difference in the world. Let's pivot to Section 5, how to build safety, because we really need to talk about breaking this cycle of silence. If you're the partner on the other side of the silence, here are your clear-cut do's and don'ts. Don't fill the silence with a bunch of noise. Don't push them to talk before they're actually ready. And whatever you do, please don't interpret their quietness as apathy or rejection. Instead, do make yourself a rock-solid safe space for them to return to. Do offer a consistent, patient presence, because honestly, consistent patience is the exact thing that teaches a danger-trained nervous system that, hey, maybe this time around, safety is actually an option. Just be the kind of person that makes coming back feel worth the risk. Now, rewiring all this stuff, it definitely takes time. If you're looking for a structured way to start, the original creator of this concept actually put together a collection of 20 really practical 7-day guides and planners. They're specifically designed to help build up that self-awareness, lower stress, and give you actual daily steps to manage these exact relationship dynamics. It's a pretty fantastic resource. To wrap up, I want to leave you with this really provocative, powerful thought. Survival strategies are built for the conditions that created them, not necessarily for the life you're trying to build now. Think about that. If you were someone who goes quiet, your silence makes complete 100% sense. It was a brilliant life-saving shield when you were younger and you needed it. But you've got to ask yourself today, is it starting to cost you more than vulnerability would? Is it finally time to risk being seen so you can actually build the life and the connection you truly want right now?